And welcome to another episode of the Best of Three podcast. I am still Alvin, that's still Torrey, and we're back at it with our WTA talk. This is we're getting down towards we're in the top 10. We're in the top 10. So just a quick refresher for those of you who haven't been with us. I'm not going to go through the entire list. I will leak the playlist or the videos that came before this of our lists, but we have been going through the top 25 WTA players of the last 25 years, starting from the year 2000, going all the way through 2025, pretending like the only tennis that ever existed happened in these 25 years. We've had a lot of fun. The comment section over on YouTube it's been on and popping, TH. It's been on and
I
popping.
agree. Hopefully, you'll be able to share some of these because I got to feel like this next segment it'll start getting a little dicey.
Yeah, this is where we might lose some followers. We might make some new friends. I don't know. I don't know how this is gonna go. But yeah, like I said, I'm not gonna run through the entire list that we've covered so far, but we've gone 25 all the way up through 11. So we're hitting the top 10 right now. And I guess one refresher is we both made our lists separately, and we have not shared what is to come with one another. So we're revealing these live to you guys, live to each other. I do have one question for you though, TH. So in the last episode that we did here, I guess we finished up with number 10. I guess we actually did number 10, Kim Clijsters for me, Naomi Osaka for you. But there have been some kind of comments and pushback about, where I think you went Ash Barty at 12, Kim Clijsters at 11, Naomi Osaka at 10. And I had, let's say, Naomi at 11, Kim right in front of her, and I have Ash a little bit higher. I think specifically there were some people raised some questions. I'm going to say questions in quotation marks here. Questions around reasoning for Osaka above Clijsters for you. And usually I don't get we're in the weeds here talking about, 10 and 11 versus 11 and 10. But when I went through my own personal list, I remember drawing a pretty hard line at, in between 10 and 11. Like Clijsters felt like that was a different class when we started to get into, that level of Grand Slam champion year or weeks at number one, blah, 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 blah. So help me, remind me, why did you have Naomi ahead of Kim?
Great question. She's still playing. And she still has, in the grand scheme of things, a chance to still get one more. Clijsters was done. I still feel Naomi could eke out one more if she continues on the trajectory she's been all year. It was a very, very close toss-up. For anybody who's watching knows that, first of all, I love Kim Clijsters' game. I met Kim on a few occasions. I think the world of her. Just a wonderful person, let alone her game. But one reason, Naomi's still playing and still has a chance to improve her mark. For that matter, I've got another lady in this next 10 through list that I think is still playing, and she could get a bit higher. But currently, if I had to peg it right now, she's in that side of that top 5 tier, and she's a current world number 1 and has been off and on for the better part of this year. So, spoiler alert, but just saying. And why? Because I feel she's still playing, and that's why I think she could still continue to move to the next echelon while she's not there currently, as she could. So same reason.
Okay, so it's more of an interpretation of the exercise, because my pushback would be, okay, but we're going through the year 2025. The year is more or less over. She can't win any more Grand Slams in this exercise. Right. So it's done. It's done.
An interpretation. I like that. An interpretation of the exercise, and if there was a tiebreak, the tiebreak is she's still playing.
Okay. All right. I guess I can live with it. I don't really have much of a choice. So
and whether or not the listeners and viewers at large agree, hey, even better. You know what I mean? Let's say this is a good problem to have. Each one of these players are phenomenal in their own right. I be honest, Alvin, I had a hard time with Ash Barty. I mean, I felt like she's a phenomenal player. I mean, it was a very tough one for me to kind of come to terms with where she is with her greatness. She came at a tough time in all of this. She was, both, COVID was in the middle. There was so many different things when she was at her level of greatness. I just feel like some of the others were they had to push through some of the other greats to get there. And that's another one that I think that you start looking at finance, you start looking at impact out of the game, you start looking
Right.
at that there's a lot of factors that go into it, and that's not Ash's fault, right? It's just she came into in my opinion, a bit more of a vacuum than she did the other way around. So that's where
That's
that's where it's tough for me.
No, that's fair. Let's go ahead and go. I want to dig a little bit deeper on Ash because I think we already talked about her in the previous episode, but I've
Mhm.
also got her at number 8. So just we'll put that out
Yeah.
there now. And and when I go back and think about it, like there is that. Okay, why did I have her at, let's say, 8 and you had her down at 12? In this particular exercise, that's a pretty big swing in our the view of where we put this player. And
Yep.
I'm with you in the fact that, like, one, she did fill a vacuum and she didn't really have to go through anyone. She was
Right.
in that post Serena but pre Iga Arena space, dealing, not even having really to deal with Naomi all that much. But I think the biggest con for Ash is we're talking about not even 4 full years at the top of the game. Like 2019, she wins her first Grand Slam, right? Granted, she turned pro in 2011, right?
Yep. Yep.
Went away from the game 15, 16, came back, didn't do much of anything on at the slam level until 2019 wins her first Grand Slam at the French Open. Obviously 2020 was a mess, and then picks up Wimbledon in 21, picks up Australian Open in 22, and then calls it. So, like, we're talking a very
And then
small.
calls it.
That calls it, right? But
Yeah.
that seems like it's a small window of dominance at the top of the game. But as she was on tour for better part of 11 years. So, but I think that the thing is, though, she was dominant, 120 plus weeks at number 1. Like, that's a big number.
Yep.
That's a real big number.
Yeah,
There
but
aren't.
but the time frame still, Alvin, and I'm with you. And again, I'm not saying that it was. Again, I take nothing from her. I take nothing from her. That's why she's as high as she is. But just saying. So again, I get it.
Okay.
I get it.
All right. Let's so I realized, yeah, we tipped into, we covered number 10 already in the previous episode, but I had Kim Clijsters, you had Naomi Osaka. We had them flip
Yep.
flop 10 and 11. I think that's why we covered 10 there. Number 9. Who you got at number 9?
Lindsay Davenport.
So the Lindsay Davenport experience is interesting in you go ahead, because she's also in my top 10. So let's get into it.
I want to say this at the beginning of this on the segue from Ash Barty. Similar number of Grand Slams. I feel like one of the things that pushed Lindsay over was the context, the years, the overlap. Mm, Obviously, the biggest context is the Williams sisters that she played both of, right? Or that for that entire, late 90s, early 2000s decade, if you will, of tennis. I feel like she not only was her game that dominant, not only was she that good player, there was also several finals that she played in. I felt like her overall body of work was, quite frankly, should be deserving of top 5 comparatively if you take out 2 or 3 players out of the top. But unfortunately, we have 1 or 2 at the very top that have just been leveled beyond in terms of their total body of work. And so I felt like she not only needed to be mentioned, but I say just 3 slams. That's quite a few, Alvin. And but if I'm not mistaken, I want to say she was in 7 finals, if I'm not mistaken. So
Yeah, so
that's
yeah,
that's
four
quite a
finals
bit, Alvin. So
losses and
right, and so
3
that
wins.
you were there are very few, if any, that have that number of finals lost. And then one other player who's a little higher in my trajectory has 7 finals lost, and that's a big number. So to me, she was that relevant that much of the time. So that's my segue with Lindsay Davenport.
Okay, yeah, I'll even back you up there. So just because you have Lindsay at 9, I have her at 7. Like, I
Yeah,
feel like when we look at this exercise and her inclusion of this list breaks maybe breaks one rule, but then is furthered by what she did later on. So I would say her actual prime was 98 to 2001, right? She won 3 Grand
yep,
Slams, finals, two Slam finals in that period. I think the most interesting thing is, like, she made so many Slam semifinals. Like
Yeah.
a lot. She
Yeah.
made 5 U.S. Open semifinals. She made
Yep.
two at Wimbledon, one at the French Open, and then another 3 at the Australian Open. Outside of winning them, winning a few of those, and year in number. I mean, she had 98 weeks at number 1. Like you
Yeah.
said, did it in right alongside the Williams sisters coming of
Correct.
becoming who they were. So like they would, I mean, Venus hit the tour in like 99, 2000, something like that. So Lindsay was right there, and she was kind of the figurehead of what was then claimed as Big Babe Tennis. And the Williams sisters both had to like go through and dethrone her to then go on and launch their own careers. And I think one of the things that gets a little lost in the sauce there is like, yeah, after 2000, which you say her prime kind of was in that space after she finaled the U.S. Open there, she then battled back later on in her career, tacked on 4 more slam semifinals and Grand Slams, but then got to 2 finals in 2005, like Australian Open and Wimbledon. So I think now you're looking at a body of work that, breaks our rules a little bit by going into the late 90s, like 98 for her first slam win, right? You counted Navratilova and maybe even Margaret Court. I don't know. But so I'm going to give Lindsay, an extra year or 2 there.
I definitely didn't include Margaret Court. I wanted to. Her and Suzanne were in there, but I was like, let me hold off right here.
Okay. Well, Billie Jean.
Shout out to Yvonne Goolagong,
Billie Jean King would like a word as well, because she's still around. She's still around. She's still around. She's still around.
She might play one more.
But Lindsay stretching all the way to 2005. Still like didn't. I mean, from 97 to 2005, she made the semifinals of a Grand Slam every single year. So like that is something. That's actually a lot of something, and that's why I have her just a smidge higher at number 7. So we'll come back to that one later. Actually, we can come back to it now because I had Ash Barty at 8, who we've talked about. Lindsay Davenport at 7, who we've talked about. Who do you have at number 8?
Martina Hingis.
Ooh, Hingis at 8. Hingis at 8. Okay.
And I'll disclose 7 if you want, just while we're here.
Well, before you do that, let me go back half a step because I think this might actually touch your number 7. I kind of misread my own list. I have Arina Sabalenka at number 9. Right.
And that's my 7.
And that's your 7. And that's your 7. Okay. Now you tell me. And so I've got Hingis a little further up. So why don't you let me know why you've got Arina ahead of Martina Hingis? Same reason.
She's still playing, and she could continue, again, interpretation, whatever. I try to stay consistent throughout. She has the ability to win one more. She obviously had just won this year's Open and had been in 3 finals, Alvin. So again, you can't. She is establishing, in my opinion, if you will, the Lindsay Davenport kind of body of work situation here, where she's been in a lot of these finals. She's continued to be relevant all year, and at her current trajectory, I could honestly see her doubling the current number she has right now, and I feel like that's not really overselling it. I mean, 4 right now, is and what? I forget how many finals. Let me look at my notes real quick.
She's lost in.
Is it 3?
3. It's now
3.
No,
is it more than that?
It's 2. It's only 2.
Only 2 of the finals.
She's lost to Coco in 2 finals.
I didn't know.
Oh, that's a lie. She lost to Madison earlier this year too. Okay. So it's 3.
I thought it was 1 shot. Bottom line, and that's end counting, and that's why I gave her that nod. Again, I thought Hingis was a phenomenal player. Hingis also came through a little bit in that tennis vacuum. The unfortunate time during the Williams sisters sabbatical / they were making purses and trying to establish some other careers during that time, showing up on the Cosby Show and so on and so forth. I just feel like during that time, and hats off to her, she absolutely knocked out the box. Phenomenal doubles player too, I might add. Yeah. I just feel like because of that, once they came back, he did not hold on to that same dominance. Again, that's where I had her, and that's where I feel like that's where I put Arina just a tad bit over Martina.
Okay, and so this is where I'll push back. Even though we've gone through this interpretation of the exercise thing, I feel like the gap between them is quite large. Like it's quite large. And you talk about Martina doing a lot of her damage within a vacuum. I mean, within this vacuum of tennis, right? Like kind of pre-Williams sisters, but kind of post Graf and Celis is kind of where she racked up, right? Like I mean, 97, she wins her first Grand Slam. She wins 3 in 97. You know, wins 1 in 98, gets a final in 98, gets wins 1 in 99, two more finals in 99, and then one final each in 2000, 2001, 2002. Okay, so that's a lot in a 6-season period. Yeah, it's 6 seasons with 5 slam wins and 7 finals, right?
Yep.
That's a big old chunk, right? Along with 209 weeks at number 1. So like
and 7 finals. I mean, to your point.
Right, yeah, but even if you compare that to Aryna Sabalenka, who's got 4 Grand Slam titles and 3 losses in finals and 60 weeks at number 1, right? I feel like we're in different, like even different categories. And also, let's look at, let's entertain this. Is Aryna Sabalenka existing in somewhat of a vacuum right now? With a lack of like truly dominant players. You would say she's probably the most dominant, but I think we both have her behind Iga, who is her contemporary, but they never even play in slam final. They never even play in Grand Slams, rarely. So like,
and whose fault is that?
I mean, you could blame both of them. I think we both have Iga above Aryna in this particular conversation. So
barely.
It's closer for you than it is for me. I just don't.
I know you love Hingis. And don't get me wrong. You know what my problem with Hingis was?
Please tell.
I don't think Hingis would have had the same career length had Celis continued. And I don't think when everything went down, when the Williams sisters showed up, she was rarely as dominant after that point in time.
Fair.
And that's and I'm not here to lay shade or to do anything else. The reason why I put, and again, I, in retrospect, wish I had to put Lindsay higher because I feel like just the total number of slams just weren't quite high enough to justify it.
Yeah.
However,
you have to win them.
To win them. But she was more relevant post the ascent of Venus and Serena. And mind you, Venus was more dominant early on, Alvin, as you know, than even Serena was in the early years. They had a bigger rivalry with each other than they had with Hingis, to my recollection and to what my view of the stats were. Now, I say that to say that is no slam on any of this. It's just to say why I didn't put her any higher.
Yeah, it's just that I'm okay with it. I guess I'm okay with it. I mean, I understand where you're coming from. I had, we'll go ahead and put that out there. I have Martina quite high, quite high.
Okay,
and maybe too high, but I have her quite high. And no, let's put it out there. I have her at number 2.
Oh,
I have her at 2.
Wow.
Yeah,
that's high.
Yeah, it doesn't get much higher.
Yeah.
If my math is right,
I know you're number 1.
There's only one past number 2. So
I think I know you're number 1. At least it better be.
I have yeah, exactly right. I just have a hard time overlooking, like you can only play against the players who are on the other side of the net, right?
No doubt, no doubt. And I 100% believe I'm with you on that.
And the same thing we said about Ash Barty, right? But like Ash did it for not as long and wasn't as dominant. I really like when I look at the amount of finals and the Grand Slam performance from 97 all the way through 2002. The game changed on her. She hung, like she wasn't making finals and winning them. She was making semifinals and getting to the finals. Like she was still there. And the 200 weeks at number 1, that's something like, 97 and 99, like there was nobody else. Like it was her. It was all her.
Yeah.
So take it all. Like take it all.
I'm with you. I am with you 100%.
I mean, you're not. You got her at 8. I got her at 2. So you're not with me 100%.
I'm with you in your line of thinking.
Okay.
I don't think she's that high. And Alvin, we can agree to disagree, brother.
That's
true. It's 100%. You mentioned the vacuum, and I hear you on that. But my take on that vacuum is she's the Hoover in the situation. She's the Dyson. She
Right.
is the Serena. So to your point about vacuum, I feel like she has ushered in her own era, and she is that player to beat. She is that front runner, and every one of these girls are, in a sense, the current girls I'm talking about, the Cocos, the Igas. I hate to say it. Iga to me is more of the Hingis of the current era, where I feel personally that Arena is the Serena of the current era, and that being the case. Now, you may agree, disagree with me
Oh,
on that, but that's
oh,
also why I put her in said status.
yeah, yeah.
And again, agree to disagree, but
Maybe I'm just
that's why.
fighting. I might be just fighting the urge to be a prisoner of the moment. Like I know what I know how I feel about Arena Sabalenka, the tennis player, and I've stood with you screen by screen on this podcast, waxing poetic about her being the modern day version of Serena. But I also think that the modern day version of the women's game doesn't really allow for the gap between the rest of them and that Serena, quote unquote Serena type figure, which is why I have a tough time thinking that Arena's actually going to double her slam count. Like, does she finish with 8? Uh, I don't know, man. Like, that's tough. That's tough.
Let me push back on that.
Please.
Tell me, current view in the moment.
Yeah.
Tell me how many other players inside the top 4, and you could arguably say those 4 have a pretty good chance at winning at least one more. Does she match up well to the other 3?
Sure. I mean, we're talking about Iga, we're talking about Coco, we're talking about who's in top 4 now? Anna Samova. I mean, Pagula's right around there. Like, I mean, Mira Andreeva's on her way. I don't
On her way,
necessarily consider.
I don't think she's top 4 yet. And
Not yet. Not yet. There's those 4 are the top 4.
and I love Mira.
Yeah, those
I'm
4 are
just
the top
mentioning
4.
those 4 are the top 4.
But I think
Does
it's
she
the
do well with those on almost every surface? Is there a bad match here and there? For sure. Has she consistently been doing the work this year? And in my opinion, this year, she was a little bit slim on slams, but she still continued to get results after results in almost every tournament she played. So to me, that says not just durability, not just consistency across surfaces and different slams. The few she got beat by, she has good records against those same players in other times. So to say she won't win, and I'm only protracting her career out another 3 or 4 years. So I think it's very likely she could win one for the next 4 years. I think she could win more than that, to be honest with you. I'm just being conservative because I think she could win 2 in a given year, and that would also alter some of those standings.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing though, right? So even if you look at just this year, 2 finals, 1 semi, 1 win in Grand Slams, right? And she's world number 1, like
Yep.
60 weeks now and counting over her career. So the loss against Madison, I'm willing to throw that one out. Madison played a match and tournament of her life, right? So
Yep.
no one was beating Madison. Obviously, no one's beating Madison in that tournament. She beat everybody.
Yep.
The match against Coco. Coco's beaten her twice in slam finals now, right? So like that's not nothing. It's not nothing. Yep,
Yep.
that's a real problem, right?
Yep.
Okay. She loses to Anna Samova at Wimbledon, and then comes back and beats her again in the to avenge that loss at U.S. Open. So
Yep.
it's not any one player that is my concern. It's the fact that I believe in that top 5, there are players that can hurt her. There
Yep.
are players that can beat her. And also given the format of the women's game, right? Grand Slams are the same as the Masters 1000, effectively. Like we're doing
Yeah.
the same thing. You're playing
Yep.
every other day until the back of the tournament. So I think like that's why Jessica Pegula now is able to pick up wins against her. She doesn't scare her anymore.
Yep.
And I think so. I think it's the field that I'm concerned about. It's not her. 1 slam a year for the next 4 years. Okay, maybe that's possible. That doesn't seem out of that. That seems fair. And she could She could get 2 in a year, right? I could see her winning Australian and then maybe picking up.
I could see her winning 2 in a year more than I could see her career lasting for the next 4, to be honest. I mean, I don't know how old Arena is. She's got, what is she,
Probably
20,
20, it's like
26?
25, 26, something like
Right.
that.
So to my point, and that's where I'm at. And again, Alvin, again, I'm not here
She's
to
20. Yeah, she's 27. She's 27. That
which tells me another reason why I could see
we're
it more
close.
likely she putting 2 in a year than she putting going the next 4. But I still don't see her being outside of that number. And I'm saying double is a possibility. I'm standing by that number, but I'm also standing by pretty good possibility. Alvin, it's a possibility for her to win 3. Just all things being considered. I'm just telling you,
Wait, in a
just
year
because
or total?
Alvin, she's been in 3 other finals. So it's not like she hasn't
Yeah,
been
okay.
at the scene. That's all I'm telling you. If this were a situation where like early days Nadal, where she wasn't even getting close to the U.S., you can write that off. She was just good at and on the dirt. I could see that. Right. Again, if we were early days, early 2000s, mid 2000s, I say mid to late 2000s, Nadal, before he actually proved he could win on hard court, she has done well on each surface. That's all I'm trying to say. So I'm just mentioning to you, it's I see her having an issue with a certain matchup or health, then as a possible derail of the 8, then I see it being the surface. But that's a huge thing.
Yeah,
Her game,
yeah,
she brings her own game. She doesn't need a matchup. She is the matchup, right?
right.
And yes, Coco is starting to find her footing and looks great. I think Pagula will always be a thorn in her side to some level, but I don't think JPEG has got the overall game to beat Arena when Arena's playing her absolute best. I feel like it could go a tough third, but I just feel on paper I would take if I'm not a betting man, but I would take Arena in that matchup. And you look at the other ones she lost to. I don't see Madison returning to quite
Right.
the same top form as much as I was happy for her to win one for herself. So I'm looking at. I don't think Iga is as big of a threat as she used to be. So it's going to be someone else. It's going to be someone who's going to sneak in. It could be a Mira. It could be an Emma Navarro who comes out of nowhere and has just a tournament for life and dethrones her. Just kind of didn't see her coming and didn't realize how good she played. It could be Amanda, but it's going to be a situation where they're going to have to come for her. She's going to do her thing,
She'll
and
show
at
up.
each of these tournaments, Alvin, she has held up her end of the bargain. She's gotten beat by a player who just flat out beat her at that moment, but she has done it all year long. So I just feel like she's committed to her fitness and her team. She's committed to changing up things in her game. Game's technically sound. She's playing high percentage aggressive tennis. We already know she has the weapons. And there's not much of a weakness. The biggest weakness was here. She's fixing / has fixed that. She's got slams to her credit. I mean, she's only going to get more comfortable.
Yeah,
So
my
that's all.
my the one thing that I think we should bring up is like I do have a personal belief in the 3-year peak, right? I feel
Yep.
like most players they have this peak
Agree
of
with that.
3 years, right? They lead up to it, they hit that peak for 3 years, and then they start to come down. If you look at it, you can make an argument that she probably has peaked. She's at the
Yep.
right age, right? She's had 3 straight years in which she's won at least one Grand Slam, right? She saw the finals of all of 3 of the Grand Slams this year.
Yep.
And she is 27. So at some point it does have to tail. Let's say maybe she has 2 years left.
Oh.
2 years left. But at some point something's gotta. But I think to her credit though, this one thing that she doesn't do is she doesn't lose the chumps at Grand Slams. Like she's gonna be in there the last 2 days of the slam, and she's going to be. It's gonna take one of the top players to beat her. She's not gonna lose. I mean, hell, she hasn't lost before the quarterfinals in a Grand Slam since like, 2022. Like, so that was at French Open. So like, yeah, that's an interesting one. I mean, we've spent a lot of time. I figured this was going to happen because she is a current player.
Yep.
But yeah, this is interesting to watch. It's outside of this exercise, but it is interesting. I can't believe you have Hingis that low. Okay. All right. We've already covered my number 7, which was Lindsay Davenport. Who do you have at number 7?
Arena. So we
You
already
had Arena.
covered.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Well, then let's get into it then. Number 6, I've got Maria Sharapova.
Yeah, I think you put her way too low. That's another talk show.
No, it's this talk show. It is literally, this is the talk show. It's this talk show.
Swiatek. And that was a tough one for me. The 6 versus the 4 is what it came down to. It is what it is. And I feel like, full disclosure, I see her winning 1, maybe 2, max going forward. I feel like she's that player that needs some help in the draw, given the other 2. I just don't like the matchup that is continuing to happen between the other 3. I see it more likely for Amanda to knock her off. I see it more likely for another player coming from outside of the top 4 knocking her off than I see her knocking off the other 3. To me, of that top 4, she's 4th in the court of public opinion, I think, but her 6, you just absolutely can't. Both current, so there was a tiebreaker, was their slams, was my rationale. That's what I had to go with.
And also,
and a darn good player. Let me not forget to mention that part in there.
And also 125 weeks at number 1. Like we're not. Let's not just talk about right now, right? Because obviously Arena's the number 1 player in the world right now. But before Arena, it was 2 straight years, almost 2.5 straight years of Iga dominance. And you could make the argument that was off the back of French Open dominance, but she did win a U.S. Open pretty early on. And outside of those,
won this year,
and won Wimbledon this year, right? So she's shown the ability to win on all surfaces. Even this year, which some would consider it wasn't a down year. I think she had a pretty good year. She lost to an on-fire Madison Keys at the Australian Open. She lost to Arena in a fantastic match at the French Open.
Really
won
good
Wimbledon.
Match the tournament, in my opinion. No offense to Coco.
Yeah, and then wins Wimbledon, and then loses in the quarterfinals to, who did she lose to in the U.S. Open? Was it she lost to, was it Jessie? She lost to Pegula? Maybe I'll look it up later. It's not overly relevant right now. But yeah, that's and that's why I've got her just a little bit higher than you have her. But so we can. I think the Iga conversation is interesting because she's also 3 years younger than Arena. That's the part that I like when we go outside of this.
And ascended to the top a bit faster, as that type often does. Again, we're talking Hingis did the same. I think in a lot of ways you can say Ash Barty did the same. And that style, I think, does that. And I personally think, and I agree with you, that type tends to have that closer to that 3-year window. And that, unfortunately, doesn't bode well for Iga's future if you're talking about the 3-year span, because that may have now happened. However, I think she's going to continue to bring some nuances and bring some things to her game. She's too competitive not to keep working on her package and her arsenal of weapons. What she did that was so impressive with me this year, Alvin, was I thought she was going away. She had a bit of a losing streak going into some of these tournaments. She kind of fell out of the top 3 or 4 for having been a Grand Slam champion. And she literally picked herself up and willed herself back into the top 4, not only relevant and not only winning Wimbledon, but did so not having the best of that. She had some clay court series that wasn't the best for her to be so good on clay. And then she played the match of the tournament of her life at the French and played great. And I was like, wow, I'd not seen her play that well before. I personally, she actually played a little better in the French than she did Wimbledon, and she won Wimbledon. So I just say it to say, obviously she knows how to play on the grass. Her returns are just deadly. I mean, by the time you've landed from your serve, the return is on your shoe. I mean, she has some of the best timing and returns that we've ever seen. But to your point, I feel like that 3-year window is what's gonna may apply to her just as well.
Okay, yeah, and she hasn't really had that, like, I mean, when you say, like, what was her best even what was her best year? It's like, I guess maybe 2022. She won 2 Grand Slams. She won French, U.S. Open that year, and semifinal Australian Open. Okay, but all the other years that's a fantastic year. But all the other years where she won the French Open, she didn't really do much else at the other slams. So like this year, 2 semifinals and then winning 1 Grand Slam. That's actually her second best year she's ever had on tour, right? It's just now she has a true, like, there's someone else that is also producing at a high level to push her out of that number 1 spot. I think maybe this is another exercise in vacuum, right? Like what the post Serena world lives us with. There will be no dominant player for more than a season because they all have the ability to, close that gap so quickly, change things up. That's an interesting one. It's an interesting one. And now that I'm like looking at, this pair, my 5 and 6, between Iga. Actually, should we take a break here? Do you think we should take a break?
Fully up to you.
Yeah, let's take a break before we get too far, especially into your number 5. Actually, okay, let's not talk about Maria Sharapova. I think we're gonna talk about Maria Sharapova after, maybe in the next episode. I don't know. We'll take a break here, and then we'll come back and we'll talk about that at another time, I think. Yeah.
Done.